Hello and welcome to Tables of Content. Pull up a seat, please join us. My name is Darin M. I'm the founder and executive producer of Tables of Content. You've joined us for a Zeroversary movie panel. This is part 2 of the April Fool's Day edition, the after panel. I'll explain exactly what that means in just a moment, but first I'd like you to meet our opinionated and talented panelists. I'm going to start with this young lady here. Sarah, introduce yourself to our fans, please.
Hi, I am Sarah J. Sover. I write fantasy and fantasy crossovers. My debut novel, Double Crossing the Bridge, released in 2019, and it's about a group of drunk trolls pulling a perilous heist. I've also got a piece coming out and Putting the Fact in Fantasy from Dan Cobalt in 2022.
Excellent.
I'm not a time traveler.
we're still trying to block out 2020, aren't we? Kyle, please introduce yourself.
2020, that's just fodder for writing, right? I am Kyle Mitchell. I'm a published poet, distinguished Toastmaster, longtime Atlanta con goer, and proud member of the Dead Pirates of Sci-Fi fandom.
Excellent, thank you. And Ellie?
Hi, I'm Ellie Raine. I'm a high fantasy author. I write about necromancers, demons, and dragons.
Excellent, thank you. And as I said before, I'm still Darin M. I'm a science fiction and fantasy author also. You can find my short stories on my author's page on Amazon for the Kindle. So here's what's going on. The Zeroversary movie panels are 2 panels in a set. This is the after panel. This is the second panel. So if you haven't seen the before panel, this is the part where I tell you to pause this video, go watch the before panel, and then decide how much you're going to participate before you come back to the after panel. Is Kyle signaling me or?
These movies right here, 3D.
Oh, yes. Okay. I see. So what we're looking at here is this is the part where I make that joke that I keep repeating where, all right, and so now pause. Okay. So you're back and you've watched the first panel and some of the 4 movies that we're about to talk about. Just to let you guys know, the movies that we're talking about today are the 70th anniversary of the original Day the Earth Stood Still, the 40th anniversary of Escape from New York and the introduction of Snake Plissken, the 30th anniversary of the classic Terminator 2, and the 10th anniversary of the teen angsty science fiction movie I Am Number 4. So what we're going to do really quickly is just do a quick rundown of which movies we watched and didn't watch, because if you saw the before panel, you might have noticed that we said technically there are 7 movies, not 4, that we're really talking about. We will explain that as we go. So let me start by asking, of the 4 panels, of the 4 movies that we're really talking about here, how many of these movies did you guys watch since we recorded the before panel? A show of fingers. 4, and has it been that long, Kyle? Okay, we'll put Kyle down for 3.141519 movies that he watched. And so the first movie we want to talk about, we're gonna start strong here, which is the 30th anniversary of Terminator 2 Judgment Day. And something I said in the before panel is this is the most crowbar theme of movies I've ever created for a panel, and that's saying something. All 4 of the titles of these movies have some little small reference to April Fool's Day, it being the 4th month or the first day of that month, and silliness ensues from there. But as you will see, there were some magic secret connections between these films that even I was not consciously aware of. So let's start with Terminator 2 Judgment Day. Was this anybody's first time seeing it? Okay. How long has it been since you watched it the last time before this one?
Like
Kyle?
20,
Oh, sorry, Ellie, go ahead.
It's 20 years about.
About 20 years, okay. Kyle?
Well, I had recently saw the newest movie, Dark Fate, which was actually pretty good. I like the sci-fi effects, special effects, and some of the new things they did with it. And so this is one of those, T2 is one of those that I catch every couple of years at least on TV some. And I did that in 2020 as well. And then I saw Dark Fate in 2021 earlier this year. And so I went back and I watched part of T2 even before, watching it officially for this panel.
Okay. Sarah, what about you?
So I saw it as a child, and apparently I forgot everything, like the entire plot. So it felt like a first watching, even though it wasn't.
So yeah, I accidentally cheated and I watched T2 as part of a Dragon Con Schwarzenegger panel like 6, 7 weeks ago. So my timing was terrible, but I did watch it again for this and took some notes. I think I saw this one in the theater. I'm pretty sure I saw this one in the theater. I was definitely of the age to take myself to the theater when this movie came out in '91. So let me pick on Ellie first because she said 20 years. Did this come to you as a fresh movie, as if you were watching it for the first time again, kind of the
Oh
way
yeah.
Sarah just described it?
Yep, I forgot literally everything about the story entirely. So it really was like watching it for the first time again.
Okay, so for both of you ladies, how does it stand up even though it's 30 years old?
Amazing. It's just absolutely amazing. I don't think I would have very many improvements, even like, for this day and age. It was a very watertight movie as far as like storytelling goes.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Sarah?
So I watched Terminator 1 the day before we filmed the first panel as prep work. And I didn't really have, I didn't know what to expect. It became apparent very quickly that Terminator 2 was the only one that I had seen before then, because I remembered Terminator being the good guy. I remembered Arnold Schwarzenegger being the good guy. So I was very surprised by the first one. But then I watched T2 the day after we recorded to try to keep that continuity. And the special effects came so far. It felt like they aged in dog years. It was, how many years was it between them? 7 years between the filming of Terminator 1 and 2. And it felt like 20 something years. It was amazing.
For sure. But the twist about, the Arnold Schwarzenegger being the good guy in the second one, I completely forgot about that. And I had seen the first one also. Right before this, like right before the second one, I wanted to watch them in order again. And I didn't see it coming. And I was like, oh my God, even if you take out Terminator 1, so if you pretend it wasn't there and you just started with Terminator 2, not knowing the plot in general, it still would be a fantastic twist. Because they still give you the red herrings of making it seem like it's, obviously he's the Terminator. And it just hits you like a truck. The scene when you realize, oh my God, he's the hero. It's just so great that it can stand up on its own and you can start with this movie and still understand what's going on.
I was watching Terminator 2 for this panel recently, and I had my critical thinking hat on, and I was like, okay, wait a minute. So the cop that finds the second Terminator, played by Robert Patrick, why isn't he played by Robert Patrick? And then I went, oh yeah, because that would give it away. That would give away that he could change shape and everything. So having the cop that finds the second Terminator not look anything like Robert Patrick, and then you kind of they kind of imply that he took his clothes because he took his car, obviously, but you're kind of like, oh yeah, okay, he's like lying naked dead in a dumpster somewhere or something like that. He stole his clothes. And then how is it like 20 minutes into the film, 25 before you realize which of them is which? Like there's a lot of action, but it doesn't really, like, I forget exactly how long it was before he's standing in that very familiar food court back hallway in the mall with like the metallic hole in him, and all of a sudden you go, oh, okay.
They got me good. They got me so good. I was screeching. I was screeching like,
yeah.
Josh, do you understand significance? Josh was like on his phone going, oh yeah.
Yeah, it was epic reveal, right? With Schwarzenegger pulling the shotgun out of the roses box. That's one of my favorite kind of reveals ever. And T2 is one of the best sequels ever, like one of those rare exceptions where the sequel is really better than the original. And I as well loved it. And Ellie, hey, keep hope alive, because maybe one day we will have a Terminator sequel where they break the fourth wall and go back and just kill James Cameron, and then the first movie never does really exist.
That's not how it works.
I just have to say we're not officially endorsing violence against James Cameron.
No.
It's
Or
just
unabashed time travel paradoxes.
Oh, we don't have time to get into time travel paradoxes.
We have enough of those in these movies.
We really don't. One thing I do want to bring up very quickly, since we've opened the time travel door, is that there's this great, I forget who it was this great video where this guy explains in great detail that there are 3 timelines in the first Terminator movie, and that's the only way you can explain what happens. And then when you add the second movie in, it reinforces the fact that there have to be multiple timelines. And it's definitely worth a search for that, because it really changed the way I see these movies now. Because I got to tell you, I was one of those guys that the Terminators are so cool that I actually wasn't really too worried about the time travel part of the story. In the back of my head, the sciencey small part in the back of my head was going, no, that's not the way that works. But the movies are so good, the storytelling is so good, the action and the special effects are so good that I was like, nah, I forgive them.
I struggled more with it in the first one, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
With him being the father, and I had a few moments where I was pulled out of the story to go, huh? Well, that's creepy. But in the second one, I didn't really notice either. I got so engrossed.
So Sarah, I'm going to put you on the spot. Can you elaborate on creepy?
Creepy, like here, have a picture of my mom. Random person to do with whatever you want, even though you're original. And okay,
it's so cringy. It's like, oh, I fell in love with a picture of you, even though I never met you, but I've obsessed over it. Like some obsessive stalker, just staring at your picture, and I fell in love with you, and like, oh, yeah, okay. And then she's like, cool, let's do it. Okay, whatever. At least my prediction was right that he was the dad. I'll take that win, whatever.
Yeah.
But probably that might have fit perfectly for their original demographic. Just saying, teenage boys, maybe.
The whole idea of here's a photo of my mom, dad. It's like, yeah, it's like I admit I hadn't even thought about that. The ladies gave me a new perspective on how there's some creepiness in the background of this story that I'm not sure how I feel about it. I'm still processing. The speaking of uncomfortable feelings, I cracked open Terminator 2 off the movie shelf. I put it in and I hit play, and I'm like just hanging out, doing it, taking notes. And it suddenly occurred to me that I ran into a scene I wasn't familiar with. I'm like, wow, has it been that long? I had accidentally hit play on the extended version of Terminator 2, which I have both versions in the DVD box, and I just somehow just went, yeah, play, whatever. Wasn't really paying attention. Got the extended version, and I have to tell you, you must see the extended version if you're a fan of these movies, because they go into a lot more detail about the character building, and there's a little bit more storytelling, but also they take the time to explain a few things that happen in the third act of the movie, like especially Schwarzenegger's Terminator and the way he kind of starts to learn and starts to grow. One of the most tragic cyborg moments of all time is in the extended version, and it really does a beautiful job of improving the story and the character relationship. So it made the ending of the movie much more emotional and much more impactful in a way that I don't think was in the theatrical version, as good as it was. So it's scary to me to think that you add 7, 8, 9 minutes, and it makes a big difference on this film. So, all right. Anything else on this one? Did anybody notice that James Cameron got a chance to practice some of his special effects in the film The Abyss? I don't know if that's so Cameron goes from The Abyss, where one of the underwater technologies is that they can modify water and make it look like faces and things. So then he goes directly from that, which was practice for the Terminator played by Robert Patrick, which was, spoilers, made of liquid metal. One of the other things that's added in the extended version is they give you a few more chances to see how that technology works. Specifically, some of the details are really interesting in the extended version with that. So yeah,
and that's one of the things that I loved about it so much, that it's amazing. Cameron and the whole team and everything used everything at their disposal, right? So you had literally hair dryers, blow dryers blowing mercury around for special effects, and then CGI that he got to practice in the Abyss and so forth. But then also brilliant stuff like Linda Hamilton's twin sister, is seen in a few of the scenes, especially at the end there where the T-1000 is imitating her coming up the stairs and so forth. And they have to both be in the scene together. And so when you have your lead actress have a twin sister, unfortunately she passed away last year, but you had that ability. It's just brilliant use of everything at your disposal to make this awesome, action movie.
Yep.
That's probably then what makes it so powerful is the combination of the computer generated stuff layered on top of the organic, natural, get in there and make these special effects, like you said, with a blow dryer. I think that sometimes nowadays they go a little bit too far with the computer generated, and you lose some of that organic quality that sucks people in, makes you care.
Yeah. There's this really great moment where part of the Terminator gets shot off by Schwarzenegger, and it's really obvious that they took a piece of aluminum and made it in the shape of the hook, and they threw it on the street, and they filmed it, and they added the clang clang sound effects. It's like, yeah, that's like 10 minutes in a shop for a metal worker who knows what they're doing. And then when he comes to collect the piece of himself, it's obviously CG because it sucks right into the boot. So they take this one little bit and they have both a practical gag and they have the CG version, and it works. It works so beautifully that they're able to. I think the big thing about T2 that's so cool, that I think you guys have already said this, is they really knew when to use practical effects, stage tricks, and they knew when to blow us away with CG. So it was a good balance. And we're about to run out of time on this one, but I want to give us all a chance to talk about the supporting cast. I mean, obviously Linda Hamilton and Schwarzenegger are great, but I can never remember her name. It's S. Apartha Markison, I think, who went on to do like 7,000 episodes of Law and Order. She was great as Dyson's wife. It's like there's people in my house. They're shooting my children. What's going on? But Joe Morton as Dyson. Yeah, just a great supporting role.
One of the best, I've said it before, one of the best deaths in all of cinema. Joe Morton, just breathing heavy. I don't think I can hold this much longer, with the weight. Brilliant. Just, I love it. And
that death got me.
Right?
Oh, man.
And then I'm 43 years old. So when I saw the movie in the theaters, I was literally as old as Edward Furlong, then Eddie Furlong, as John. So, I could really relate to it. It was extra fun and exciting to me to be the same age as John Connor, in this sequel.
Yeah. All right, guys. Anything else on Terminator 2 before we move on to our second movie?
It's just an awesome movie.
Yes.
2 thumbs up through the lava, the molten.
Through the rays. Yes. If you told me that movie would make me emotionally distressed over a cyborg going into a lava pit essentially on the end of a chain, I'm like, no, whatever. 2 hours later, I'm like, oh, he's going in voluntarily.
I called it though. Totally called it.
Awesome science fiction experience. Okay, well, excellent, guys. Thank you so much. We're going to talk about our second movie on the list, which is the 70th anniversary of Day the Earth Stood Still. It is impossible to talk about this movie without referencing the 2008 remake, which is Keanu Reeves and a tremendous cast. But what we want to focus on is the 70-year-old version, black and white, Klaatu and Gort and a spaceship that was obviously made out of plywood. Anybody want to go first on this one? No? Okay.
Well,
Let's
I don't mind starting. For
go ahead.
me, it was this was one of those movies that I will see come up very often on shows like Svengoolie, like at midnight, 1 in the morning, and you're watching one of the, on the air over the antenna kind of channels, and you see these classic horror movies, classic sci-fi movies, 50s atomic age, movies come up. And so I've seen this one several times, the 1951 version several times, but I had forgotten, some of the, like bad special effects and just like rushing through the plot and everything, and not the stylized, storytelling that we have nowadays in modern
It was
movies like
efficient
this.
storytelling. That's what it was. Not rushed. Efficient.
Yes.
Efficient. Okay. Well, speaking of being
Lower
efficient, I
budget.
forgot to ask a question, which is, how many people, this is the first time you've seen the black and white 1970? Okay, I got one hand up. Ellie, how long had it been since you'd watched this movie?
I think I saw it when I was, I don't even know, like 10, 12, 15, one of those.
Okay, somewhere in there.
I'm in my teens or preteens, I don't know.
Kyle, how about you?
Yeah, it had been probably 8 or 9 years since I'd seen it.
I had, I have to be honest, I'm not sure that I ever saw it in its entirety. Like I knew I'd seen some of it or most of it when I was a kid, but I don't think I saw it in its entirety until about a couple of years ago when I finally got my hands on the Blu-ray, which has the DVD for, this is the Blu-ray for the 2008 version. It's got the DVD for the black and white from 70 years ago. It's got that in there. And I was like, oh yeah, I remember. Let me pop that in. So I watched that. I have to say, I really don't think it's that much of a stretch that the black and white classic one is better than the 2008. I think we could easily spend a lot of time talking about what's wrong with the second movie. But one of the things I really like about the black and white is that it really is trying to focus on a human storytelling concept. I mean, obviously it's an alien from another planet. It's all this amazing technology, but it really is very much, it feels like a long edition of a Twilight Zone episode, which is a compliment as far as I'm concerned. So, Sarah, did I forget to ask you how long it's been since you've seen this one?
I have not seen this movie before.
Oh, that's right.
This is the first time, and I struggle to talk about it a little bit because I really appreciate those character-driven elements, and I watch it and the 2008 back to back, and it definitely, from a story perspective, blows away the new one. But I have some real issues with some of the scientific elements. I really struggled with taking down the entire all electricity or all power, and at first my biggest problem is that electricity and magnetism are very linked, and you can't have electricity without magnetism. And at first I thought, okay, well, maybe he's just taken down the power grid, and that makes sense. But then they showed all these cars in the streets, and everything just stopped all over the globe. And I'm like, okay, so obviously he doesn't have the ability to limit what he's taking down.
Except for airplanes that were currently airbound and for hospitals. He kept those things untouched, and they said, and other things. So we don't know those things were that he left untouched.
They didn't do the world building. They didn't do the world building to support the ability to. They acted like they're just more advanced scientifically, but they didn't give us any of that, the how. And without the how, I'm led to believe that they took down the entire magnetic field of the Earth, and now we are all dying of cosmic radiation. And I don't see how that is a harmless demonstration of power. And I don't see how the lead scientist was like, "Oh, this is brilliant! I would have never thought of it."
The main difference I feel like in the older one versus the newer one is the older one does a great job of giving the why of the plot, and the new one gives the how of the plot a lot better.
The new one was such a waste.
The two, maybe get like a mix of both somewhere.
I agree, and the new one was such a waste because it had so many amazing actors in it, And some of that acting was top notch, and it had a lot of the scientific research. It had some really cool scientific elements about the biosuit that he wore and everything,
Mm-hmm.
but they failed to fully explain a lot there, and it was just, I don't know, it got about 3/4 of the way through, and then they were just like, and then there was a plague of nanobots that ate everything, and then I don't know, there was some scene that was supposed to be really emotional but wasn't, and it was a huge waste, and
Mm-hmm.
it took all the, like Ellie said, I think it took all the good of its predecessor and wiped that all away in favor of, I don't know what that was. But I enjoyed it for the first 3/4.
Yeah, I don't know. There was something about the new one that just, I didn't get a good sense of why did they care so much about the Earth in particular? Why did you care about the Earth and all the species? Are you a preservation organization society? Is that what your goal is? Are you preserving these things? Is that your job? What exactly is so significant to you and everyone out there about the Earth itself? The only thing I can think of is maybe they are just purely about preserving planets or something like that, but they don't give that reason. So without knowing that reason, it didn't quite have a strong foundation in the story as much as the older one did. Because in the older one, they straight up say, yeah, we're very, very, very against any threats to our peace. So if you threaten with violence, you are just going to be obliterated. So they give you a solid foundation, reason for why they are there and why it's important, that I feel like just was not mentioned at all in the new one.
No, in the black and white one, they were very clear that while you were killing each other, we didn't care. But as soon as you bring that out into the rest of the galaxy, we're going to prevent you from doing that. And we're going to do it humanely, but we're going to do it. You're not getting up in our grill here with this. So it was Carpenter in the first movie in the black and white. He was very clear about why they were there. One of the things I really liked about the black and white was that he was obviously taking his sweet time getting to the business of what he was there to do. Like he was hanging out in the boarding house and playing with the kid and hanging out with the kid's mom and just kind of like going, you humans are really fascinating. I'm going to kill all of you, but not today. I'm going to hang out for a little bit.
Learning.
He tries to get to know them, but the other thing is his sole intent was to give them the warning, to make it plainly clear what exactly was going to happen if they did not change. So that was one of my complaints also in the newer one. They were just being all secretive and being like, oh, we're going to spy on them and we're just going to have a 5-minute conversation in a random McDonald's and you're going to tell me something very confusing that they're horrible, but I love them. So I'm going to stay here and die with them because that's how much I want to stay. And to me, I feel like Klaatu should have been like, oh, hang on a minute. Can you maybe expound on that a bit? Maybe just a bit, like maybe 5 more minutes at the very least. Can you maybe try and help me figure that out? That's a very weird contradiction there. For somebody who claims to have a very higher advanced philosophical society, it didn't seem very philosophical of him to do that, whatever the word is for that. But like,
they don't have the jury system in that
makes sense
organization in space. One thing that I really thought was interesting between the 1940 short story and then the 1951 movie and then the 2008 movie, they're all very similar and stick to the general plot, but in the 1940 short story, the final climactic kind of shocking end is really about the twist on the robot known as Gnut or whatever in the story is really, he's like, okay, I am Klaatu's master. Klaatu is not my master, and it's like, oh, that okay, the robot is taking over. Well, that kind of can tie in, with at the time during World War II and so forth, and the fear and there's always a bigger fish for the Star Wars fans out there. And then you have the 1951, which now at the end of World War II and after it, and the use of force and you want to avoid any future wars, that sentiment. But then you get to the 2008 version, and if you look at, instead of this flying saucer, you have, what did he come in? He comes in this globe. It's literally like an Earth.
Yeah.
And so the playing on kind of like in Terminator 2, right? The rise of the machines. And now you've got this fear of like the nanobots, nanotechnology, all that kind of thing. So they kind of flipped it on its head a little bit in 2008 version, but didn't really pull off. Like, I was confused about the turning over, the new leaf and realizing, oh, okay, you are worth saving. Whereas I thought in the 1951 version, it was a better emotion and saving, that she convinced him. Whereas I didn't get the whole really lesson that you learned from Jennifer Connelly's character and Jaden Smith.
It seems so sudden, so sudden. But I think I don't know. I had so many issues with it. Just ultimately, also, I think one of my major grievances was how little they actually told the kid anything. Literally, tell him what's at stake. You literally could have had a very, very short conversation with this kid who seems to be actually really, he's a great thinker. This kid seems kind of smart, and like so smart that he, has a problem with authority. Like, so obviously, if you'd be like, look, okay, here's the thing, Jacob. If he dies, we all die. So we need to make sure that he is safe, and we need to convince him that we are all worth saving. Can you do that for me, Jacob? Nothing. We got nothing. Nobody told him what was at stake. And I feel like that's all it would have taken. But instead, we just got, I just need you to trust me, even though this kid just doesn't trust you. Yeah. You can't expect a kid that doesn't trust you to trust you suddenly for whatever reason without giving him what's at stake. And it just seemed kind of lazy to me for them not to have that, because it seemed like a tension grab. No, sorry, tension grab. Because it seemed like they were just fishing for any kind of tension they could possibly get anywhere. And so they went for it, but didn't actually fill in the gaps that we needed to really connect emotionally to it, to make it believable. Yeah. So it was very disconnected in those kind of relationships for the story side. But I love the science stuff, even though I didn't understand it. I was like, oh, this seems pretty, seems pretty on point science-wise.
So we've got.
They were trying to do too much.
Yeah, absolutely. We've only got a couple of minutes left. I do want to say very quickly that this is probably one of the best examples of how you can look at the two different versions of a movie and teach a class on storytelling. Because you can take one of them and go, this is all storytelling, and you can take the other one and go, no storytelling, or bad storytelling. Sarah, did you have anything you wanted to say about this one before we run out of time?
No, I just think it's kind of funny that somehow the original Klaatu was more Keanu Reeves than Keanu Reeves' Klaatu was.
Right?
Yes.
The new Klaatu did not deserve Keanu Reeves' awesome performance.
No, he did not.
And for those of you that are Bruce Campbell fans, and if you're not, you're wrong, this is where Klaatu Barada comes from Army of Darkness / Evil Dead 3. I am of the opinion that Bruce Campbell's character in Army of Darkness was relating a story, and he'd watched this movie recently. So when he needed the fake Latin magic words, he was just like, Klaatu Barada. That's where that comes from, guys. That's where those fake Latin words first came from. Anything else before we run out of time here? Any other comments on either version of David? So I just want to throw in one thing real quick. The character's name is Mr. Carpenter, and I can't help it, but my brain went, wait, is he supposed to be a Jesus figure? We don't have to get into that. Don't think about that too much, but I was sitting there going, Mr. Carpenter, Jesus. Okay, all right. So
I was just thinking in the older black and white version, I was sitting there staring at all the buildings. And I have to think, you know, if the buildings were shown this black and white movie that are still standing today, would they be like really self-conscious about their old acting career? You know, would they be like, "Oh, I wish those pigeons weren't on my head that day."
all right, guys. So we're out of time for this one. Thank you very much. We're going to move on to our next film here. So after an intermission and a fire drill, we're back with our third movie of this Zeroversary movie panel, and it is, oh goodness gracious, why did I pick? No, I'm kidding. It's Escape from New York, which is I was about to say 30 years old. It's 40 years old this year. Escape from New York, the introduction of Snake Plissken. Okay, so let's see if I get this right the first time. How many people, speaking of the first time, this is their first time seeing it, was for this panel? Wow. Okay. So, Kyle, how long has it been since you've seen it? Obviously, you own it.
It had been about a decade or so, probably.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. I've seen it. I saw it a couple of times a long time ago. I remembered the basics, but I hadn't really remembered a lot of the details, as you will see as we start talking about it. So let's pick on our first timers here. In a previous movie panel, we found out that Sarah is a fan of, what was the expression used? The absurd? Is that right?
Oh yeah.
So like part of me was wondering if you would put this in the same category as, oh, I don't know, Gremlins 2, just as a guess.
I enjoyed it, if that's what you're asking.
That is kind of where I was going. Yes.
I enjoyed it a lot, but it started in the wrong spot.
Really?
Yeah, we're just supposed to accept the character motivations that were given to us without any kind of backstory, even though they keep alluding to the backstory. And it just felt like it started in the wrong spot. So I started doing some digging, and I found out there's a novelization that gives you this entire rich backstory of Snake, and everything makes so much more sense in context. And had I had that information going into it, I would have loved this movie. But I spent a lot of it going, huh?
Yeah, I was very confused the entire movie. I kept having to rewind and rewind and rewind. And what did he say? What does that mean? What did he say?
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember him saying that before, so I go back. Okay, he kind of said that for like one sentence, but like that was it, and then they moved on. So I just definitely did not understand anything in this movie.
I want to say very quickly, because it's actually not worth spending a lot of time on, is that I kind of accidentally found that there was an alternate opening to the film, which was supposed to give you some idea of who Snake Plissken was. And I was like, oh, great, because I have no idea. I watched the thing and I went, I still don't have any idea. It didn't actually give the missing anything. For those of you who are not remembering what we're referring to in the film, there's all these moments where like everyone he meets knows who he is, but thought he was dead. Right? Like how, like it's almost the drinking game is every time somebody says, I thought you were dead, you take a drink. But what do they mean? Why? Why was he?
And the only story we got was that he's ex-military, has won 2 Purple Hearts, and then got busted robbing a bank, and now is being sent to Manhattan Alcatraz, which I actually loved. It reminded me of if you know Disney Descendants, they have the Isle of the Lost where all the villains live. Or Australia, but I loved the concept. But he's going there because he's a war hero who got caught in doing one bank robbery. But then when you look up his actual backstory, you find out that he has been anti-government ever since, that he never believed in the war that he was fighting in. He was trying to do what was right, that his whole family was wiped out by the police. And then things like the terrorists talking about the racist police state, which is interesting. Even, let's see, this was in 1981. So yeah, there's some definite lessons that can carry over here. But that all just makes more sense. And it makes more sense that you have people that are trying to topple the government. And when you have that background, at the end where he decides to just, doom everybody to nuclear war, it makes sense. It doesn't seem like it's just a spite, petty, you treated me badly, so the world can die. It's just not, it's not the same thing when you have that backstory.
Right, right.
And I had seen a TikTok creator that did a video about this that also mentioned the 10 minutes original film intro that showed the bank robbery. And then it makes more sense, because when I originally watched this, not knowing that ever existed and had just been not edited out of the movie, I thought, oh, well, this is kind of neat hero creation, that you're coming, in the middle of things, and maybe you're setting up for, some prequel later on if this movie is a big hit. No, they had that actual 10 minutes of where you see the bank robbery and he's arrested, and then you open with the new movie when he's basically going to be transitioned over to the security prison that is Manhattan Island. But also interesting that apparently John Carpenter wrote this as a reaction to Watergate and the presidential abuse of power that Nixon did, which adds a whole other layer to the ending and the tapes and destroying of tapes, like in Watergate. So it's interesting that, when you put it in that perspective of what he was making the film for, but apparently was too violent for a lot of producers. And then you have somebody like Kurt Russell, that had known coming from Disney, trying to change his squeaky clean image, Disney image, to the total opposite of Snake Plissken.
Yeah, it just suddenly occurred to me when you mentioned Watergate, is that there's that old line of only Nixon could go to China, and I'm suddenly sitting there going, only Snake Plissken can go to Manhattan. It's like, it's just, yeah. But I still can't completely wrap my head around how this is a reaction to Watergate. But anyway, so speaking of the President of the United States, a terrific little, talk about changing an actor's typecasting. Donald Pleasance as the President of the United States does a fabulous job of being at times exactly what you want from the president, and at times being exactly what you fear might be in the president. And then he almost gets the final word at the end. There's that great line about how, oh, I'm the Duke of New York. Well, I'm the President of the United States. So yeah, just a bizarrely interesting performance from Donald Pleasance.
Yeah, the President of the United States with like a machine gun.
With a machine gun, yeah.
I mean, that's epic. Gotta love that.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's a great line in the context of that film. Which brings us to, we've talked about Kurt Russell and his Disney comedy transition here to Snake Plissken, but great cast. Adrienne Barbeau, Harry Dean Stanton, Ernest Borgnine as a cab driver off his meds, who's the only one who knows what's actually going on in the story at all.
He's the best. He's the best.
Ernest Borgnine's character in this is a treasure. He's a delight.
He was holding the whole movie.
Yeah.
Or carrying, that's the word.
He really was. He held up the whole thing. There's, in my notes, I have just the word cabaret, because when you go to Manhattan, after it's been turned into a prison, you absolutely must see a show. He went to a cabaret first. What's up with that? Anyway. So
well, it kind of looked like that. The costuming in this movie, wow. Some interesting bohemian choices of Native American garb, Mexican ponchos mixed with, very interesting fashion design choices in the costuming.
You take away the societal norm and people let their freak flags fly, man. I noticed that too. I was like, oh my God, we got tribal wear over here. We got like plate armor over there, I think.
Yeah.
Like chandelier lights on the headlamps of
on the caddy.
Car
awesome.
Caddy. That's awesome.
Chandeliers on a caddy.
Awesome.
Why are people not doing that?
I don't know. They need to start.
Right.
It's
We start
great.
today.
Yeah. And Isaac Hayes as the Duke of New York, just a just a hysterical. It's just every scene he's in, everything he says just makes me go, oh, it's Isaac Hayes. It's so awesome. He does a great job in this movie. The one thing I do want to get back to, something that Sarah brought up previously, which we do actually have to comment on, is I think in the before panel I went, no, I don't think the World Trade Center thing is a problem for this movie. Sarah, do you want to correct me?
Yeah. The scene in the opening where the the hijacked Air Force One is shown against the New York skyline with the Twin Towers both standing. It was a little bit of a gut punch.
It was, and it wasn't just that the World Trade Center buildings were so prominent; they actually were a plot device in this movie, twice. And I'm just sitting there going, "Oh, I'm gonna pay for that. I totally forgot that he lands that glider thing on the roof of the World Trade Center."
Yep.
Because it was the tallest point in New York, so that's the obvious place to enter.
But overall, you got to suspend disbelief a little bit with some of the special effects and some of the things that they do with the plane and the presidential pod and everything crashing into New York and whatnot. But for its time, pretty cool. And a lot of people don't know. I did not realize before really prepping for this panel that a young James Cameron, director of Terminator 2, was a visual effects photographer, I believe it was, on Escape from New York. So he was on that team as a young guy, getting his chops, in this John Carpenter film.
Excellent.
Mr. Carpenter.
Another connection.
Carpenter. Yeah, very good. Thank you. All these little subconscious connections. So Ellie, what about you? What was your big takeaway from this film?
Well, I found out that it's apparently, according to Wikipedia at least, that the snake here was like at least some inspiration for Solid Snake of the Metal Gear games. Because something about, like, when I first watching it, something about that character, I'm just staring at it. He's got the eye patch, he's got the headband thing, he's got the long hair. I'm like, who does this guy remind me of? He looks really familiar with the headband and eye patch, whatever. And then suddenly somebody called him Snake, and I went, that's it, it's Solid Snake. So I went to Wikipedia to look it up, and the eye patch and whatever is actually it makes an appearance for Solid Snake when he's like older. That's when he's got the eye patch, and I swear that it was like an homage to that one, because on the Wikipedia they talk about the fact that it was probably an inspiration from this movie. Specifically, they named this movie and that character. That's as far as I remember from what I looked up, though. So just look on Wikipedia for Metal Gear, the reference for Solid Snake. They do reference this movie. So, yeah.
I don't have to look it up. I think you just covered it. Anything? We've got a couple of minutes left on this one. Anything else stand out?
Yes, the best scene. When they go to, they're like, what's wrong with the car? And they open the hood of the car and the dude pops out with a crossbow.
Yes.
I about screamed.
That was so ridiculous. It was awesome.
It was awesome.
It was like the people who made Mad Max Thunderdome were watching this movie going,
yeah.
It's like because in Manhattan in this prison there's no gasoline. It's just guys. It's just little hamster-sized guys under the hood of the car going, yes, Duke, yes, Duke. I do have to apologize. I have to make a correction from the before panel. I said I own this movie, but I had forgotten I own Escape from Los Angeles, Escape from LA, which is the sequel. And if you watch Escape from New York and you're like, I'm not sure how I feel about this movie, watch Escape from LA and you will love Escape from New York. Again, another slight connection here. Bruce Campbell in Escape from LA, he plays the psychotic post-apocalyptic plastic surgeon in Los Angeles. Great. He does a great job. He's so over the top. He's so Bruce. But that movie, ooh, no, it makes Escape from New York look pretty good in my
Yeah, I saw
opinion.
Escape from LA one time, and it was enough.
That was enough. That was
Yeah.
enough. And I'm waiting for Sarah to pounce
On what?
because I could have sworn this would be Escape from LA would be something you'd die on that hill for.
I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it.
Oh, okay. Well, then okay. So did
So you're telling
psychotic
everybody in the
Bruce?
world not to watch it except for me?
Yes, that is okay. So audience, I skip it except Sarah. You can ask Sarah later if she watched it. No, it's okay. So Bruce Campbell plays a post-apocalyptic, psychotic plastic surgeon in Hollywood. Sarah, did I get you on that? Did I sell it?
Yeah. No, I'm hooked. I'm good. I'm waiting to see where this goes.
Totally sells it. I'll loan you my copy at some point.
Right.
Okay. Any last thoughts on Escape from New York before we move on to our fourth movie?
One Lady Liberty thumbs up. Or
One torch.
just one torch. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not two.
Yep. Again, Ernest Borgnine in a cab with Molotov cocktails. I'm totally down. I'm there. All right, guys, home stretch. We've got a fourth movie to talk about, and by no coincidence at all, it is the teen angst alien invasion movie I Am Number 4. And if you're wondering if this is the fourth movie in a series, no, it's not. So how many of us saw I Am Number 4 for the first time because of this panel? Really? Okay. So I actually own it and had seen it before. My wife and I have made a hobby of collecting bad science fiction movies. And I think in a few minutes, if you haven't seen this movie, you will understand why I'm put it in that paragraph in that conversation. So let me bug Kyle first. Kyle, what was your reaction to seeing this film for the first time?
I was really psyched about it because it's written by Miles Millar and Al Gough, who did Smallville, and I was a big Smallville fan. Actually, also now I believe Into the Badlands on AMC. But so I was excited about that because I like Smallville, and we did get some of that kind of actors playing older, what do they call it in the business? 18 to be younger or something like that. You can play younger, but awesome special effects. I loved a lot of the special effects and stuff, but lots of plot holes for sure.
Absolutely. So Ellie, what about you? What was your takeaway from the first time seeing this movie?
Disappointing. I had such high expectations of what I thought this movie was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
They promised a lot in the prologue with a really awesome premise, and they really hooked you in with the action and the terror, and like somebody dies from these people. They are really hunting these people down, and it's just such a great prologue. But the rest of the movie, I was just super impatient because I was waiting to get back to the actual plot, but we didn't. 80% or more of that movie was just about the teen drama, which is great, but if you're going to call it a sci-fi, I kind of expect 80% of the story to be sci-fi, and then maybe 20% of it to be about teen drama. That's kind of what I expect when you call it a sci-fi. I was so disappointed because I wanted to see the rest of the sci-fi, and it was just great prologue. What happened to the sci-fi? What happened? What happened to the hunting?
Mm-hmm.
You're not being hunted? Aren't you being hunted? Why are you so concerned about this thing that has nothing to do with being hunted? More sci-fi. Teen drama.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've just seen the birth of a meme. Ellie going, more sci-fi. Sarah, what about you? What was your reaction to this movie?
So it was kind of like the inverse of the 2008 Day the Earth Stood Still, because for on the Day the Earth Stood Still, I was very hooked for the first part and then let down by the ending. And on this one, the first half, I was in YA hell, and I'm okay with young adult. I love young adult when it is done well, but this was not, it was not done well. And it was really bad for the first half. And then there was this amazing death scene where the Santa Clarita Diet guy,
Timothy Oliphant.
Timothy Oliphant.
Yes, I can never remember his name. But
Great hair.
When he dies, it is this gorgeous cinematographic, is that a word? It is now. Scene, and he dissolves like a lot of supernatural type creatures would into the air, but it is just gorgeous. It is beautifully done. And I was like, oh. So I went from YA hell to nerd girl heaven. And then we started getting all these action scenes and the fighting, and number 6 comes in and she is amazing. My husband actually turned to me and goes, this should have been I Am Number 6.
Thank
They
you.
should have made the whole story about her.
Yes.
Oh my God,
She's a
number 6.
badass.
I was so confused for most of this movie because I have trouble with faces. So I thought that number 6 and the other girl, the other Sarah. There's a
The
lot
photographer.
of I thought they were the same person the entire time. The entire time, you know, you see the scene with number 6 burning down the house behind her, and she's just so cool. She's like, yeah, I'm over it. I'm after this. And then it just switches to, in my perspective, she just randomly was like, oh, I'm this sweet little photographer girl, and this is just how I see the world better through this lens. And I was like, but are we not going to discuss the fact that you just blew up a house? Should we not be discussing this thing? Is this an act? Are you acting all innocent? Yeah, I'm not really sure what's gonna happen. I feel like this is like a red herring or something. But no, apparently they were just 2 separate characters. They were just both blonde. So I couldn't tell the difference.
But Ellie, I can't. Hold on, Sarah, 1 second. I got to say real quick, I can't fault Ellie on this because the first thing I noticed when I looked at the DVD cover was, wow, that is a lot of blonde glamour shots on one DVD cover. They're all blonde. Everybody in the entire movie is blonde, even the sheriff.
Hot blonde 1, hot blonde 2, hot blonde 3. That's in the credits. That's absolutely.
Okay, Sarah, go ahead. Sorry.
So we have a group chat that goes on, and my favorite part of all of this was Ellie going, because she chats along right along with the movie, and it is fabulous and wonderful, and you all should be privy to that content because it's amazing. But she's like, why is she just in school? Like, she didn't blow up a building. It's amazing.
It was confusing.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
That was the best part of this movie. No, the second best part of the movie. The death was the best part, and then Ellie was the second best part.
But watching, is it Teresa Palmer? Do I have her name right?
Yes.
Teresa Palmer, who is number 6, for those of you who actually saw the movie, she walks out of the bungalow and then it explodes behind her. She doesn't look back. She doesn't flinch. It's so over the top cool. It's like, it's such a great introduction to this character. And then she doesn't back down from that. She doesn't get less cool and she doesn't get less tough. She brings more later. She somersaults through laser blasts and lockers are melting. And she's like, you're an idiot. She shoots an alien and then yells some more. And
it took so long for her to come back into the story itself.
Yeah.
Like, even the villains took a really long time to actually be present in the story.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't feel like the actual villains because they were barely there. It was the school bullies and Mr. Football who was really the villain in this because he had the most presence in the story. He was there for majority of that story. And then at the very end, all the actual sci-fi number 6 and the alien villains actually came into play. So it was at the very end when they finally were like, yes, this is what I'm here for, guys. Keep doing that.
I'm so curious about what their natural habitat, what their planet looks like, because the gills by the nose, and I really want to know what their ecosystem is.
I'm sure this is like a book series, and I want to find it now because I am so sure that it's actually really good, and I'm so sure that they actually explain all of that. I feel like they probably do. Mm-hmm. So I want to look it up.
Right, yeah, especially with like Disney behind this, right? And you should have been able to make a sequel and then go straight to I Am Number 6 even if we didn't see 5 and we don't know where 5 is, okay, just skip.
Oh, yeah, that's the other thing. So like in the intro prologue, the guy explains that they're hunting us down in order, one at a time, and I'm like, okay. So since there's no number 5 in this movie, are they just gonna hold off on killing number 6? Are they just gonna like wait and just be like, no, don't kill her yet. We haven't gotten to 5. We're not there yet. We can't. Yeah. We gotta do this in order.
It's the most OCD bad guys ever. Oh, you can't kill her yet.
Well, that adds a different shade to it, because what if 6 kidnapped 5 and hid 5 in like some room so that she would not get killed until
She
5.
totally did. She totally did.
7, 8.
There's no way that character did not do that.
Right.
You're
She would, wouldn't
100%
she?
right.
But she was my favorite part too. Like, she came in and saved the day at the climax. They're in the high school, and just again, we got to really then see. That's when the movie really began.
Everything I wanted. That climax is exactly what I wanted, but it just took so long.
It was like a 75-minute prologue, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But all that said, if they ever make an I Am Number 6, even with the disappointment of the first one, I'm gonna go see it.
Right.
I would like to see.
That would be the only thing that would get me to watch a sequel to this, is if it's about number 6. That would be the only thing, because that was the best character. Just hands down.
You got some Buffy energy.
I realized it was not the same character as sorry, when six came into play, finally again, I was like, oh, there's 2 Sarahs? Is this like a Sarah from the future?
No, that's the Terminator movies.
Yeah, that's
Sarah
the problem with watching all these movies together.
Yeah. How many Sarahs were there? How many Sarahs were there in these 7 movies according to Ellie? Like,
we had Sarah Connor, then we had this Sarah. And then
we had the other Sarah who wasn't Sarah in this movie.
Jennifer Connelly.
Jennifer Connelly.
Jennifer Connelly.
We have Sarah Sover.
See, now we're really stretched. All right, we got off topic a little bit. We got a few more minutes on this one. I have to mention the dog, because the dog is so problematic but so cool at the same time.
Yes.
And I'm just sitting there going, okay, where did the dog come from? Like, we knew it was the lizard. Some of us figured out that it was the lizard that turned into the
I didn't know that. I didn't make the connection.
Yeah. So but it's so clunky, and like, where did the lizard come in the first place? Like, everybody's shocked that this thing is there. And then it saves their butt, and then they just go, oh, okay, that's great. It's fighting the monsters. Let's just leave. They left it to die.
Yeah.
What?
No bueno. No. Mm-mm.
No, and then it turns back into whatever was it? Not a basset hound, but
A beagle.
The beagle. Thank you. It was a lumpy beagle. It turns back into lumpy beagle, and it's bleeding and limping and everything. And I was just like, you bastards! You let the dog behind to bleed out.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I have to say, they say that a dog is a man's best friend. I disagree. A chimera. Definitely.
I want a chimera.
I want one too. Exactly. If anyone ever asks me what kind of pet that I want for like Christmas, I don't want a puppy. I want
a chimera. I want a shape-shifting chimera. Yeah. Because you could put it in your bag when you go into the store.
Oh yeah.
And I'm not going to name it Bernie Kosar.
No, that was okay. Let me ask you a question. Did anyone in this movie's target audience have any idea what the Bernie Kosar reference was?
No.
Right? It's like, no, I think the Bernie Kosar joke went right over the teenager's head.
That was more of that whole like attempt at the teen thing, like, oh, you Timothy Oliphant, oh, you're my guardian, but you're so old, okay, boomer, kind of.
Yeah, but I also, again, I gotta assume that they probably go into a little more depth with some of these characters in the books. They have to, because in the movie, like, the freaking Mr. Football guy, that's all he was. He did not have any other personality other than, I love football. Do you love football? You don't love football? Oh, screw you, man. You need to love football. Football.
Yeah, so he's the chief bully, he's the quarterback, he's the love interest ex-boyfriend, and he's the sheriff's son. Did I miss any cliches?
No.
Right.
Well,
And
And it's
then
okay.
af-
And then,
I'm sorry.
he just when I thought he died in the climax, I thought he died because we didn't really see him at all.
Yeah.
Or maybe I just missed it. But like he just pops into existence suddenly at the end of it when everything's all good, and he's holding this special box,
it's like,
the special box that belongs to the main character, and he's like, "Here's your box, bro."
Yeah, right.
As if they're friends now.
Here's the unexplained MacGuffin at the very end, right? It's like, I don't
yeah.
know why I
And,
have this,
yeah.
and I don't
And
know why
all
I'm
of a
giving
sudden,
it to you.
all is forgiven that you were
Yeah.
a jerk and you put paint in my buddy's locker to ruin my only photo of my real father. What?
Why does he have the box?
What's in the box?
What's in the box? Well, apparently in the books, I read this online too. I haven't read the novels, but I think I probably will after this. They were a popular series, but apparently, yeah, it is his inheritance, but it's different for every different guardian, for every Lorien guard member. The legacy, yeah, power or their powers, but then in the box are like kind of weapons or like a bracelet that can turn into a shield and a cube that you can put in your mouth and it gives you water, and then some other ones have food, and so different
That's
little
even
objects.
more problematic. That's worse. That is worse because you had a guardian figure that could have first off told you that you had these legacy powers before you went nuclear at a beach. And then, I mean, he could have prepped you for this, right? Like, I mean, my 7-year-old knows she's going to have a period. Okay. I feel like I would have told.
Good
point.
I feel like I would have told this boy that he was going to suddenly develop these powers. And then there's a box with things that could have helped protect him. And it, what?
That makes it even more.
That's worse.
And it was, and I don't know if any of you remember The Greatest American Hero, but I really wanted for William Katt's character to fly on screen and go, "Oh, you didn't get an instruction manual either?" It's like
a cameo from William Katt.
Oh, William Katt
That's
cameo.
what we needed.
For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, Greatest American Hero, the premise is that he gets this alien super suit but loses the instruction manual. It's awesome. It's an awesome show. It's great. But that's the premise, is that he's got this super suit and he's all heroic, but he has to figure out how to fly, he has to figure out how to turn invisible, he has to figure out everything. And that's kind of what I Am Number 4 is like. He's like, I'm all teenagey and hormonal and I have superpowers I don't get.
Oh, I'm being hunted down, and I felt the number 3 person die. I felt them die, and I felt their pain and their fear. And oh my God, these people are after me now because I'm next. Hey, look, a school fair. Let's go.
Yeah. Yep.
You're not gonna coop me up. I've got to go to high school.
Not gonna do that.
No.
But I love that in my notes I put that the bad guys look like rejects from the Lost Boys movie.
Yeah.
Not exactly, but it's like I really thought it was unfortunate that the bad guys had the best jokes, they had the best sense of humor, they were much more self-aware than any of the other characters. I just love the idea the guy goes into like a Piggly Wiggly and buys 35 frozen turkeys, and they're like, look, a truck, let's just throw the turkeys in the truck shakes. That somebody in production is going, woo, we didn't have to CG the monsters until the very end of the movie. The shaking truck and the turkeys is good enough for
a little bit of humor would have fixed. A little bit of humor, just a small, tiny little bit of humor in the first half would have made all those tropes okay. Like you had the geeky friend acknowledge that the school is a big cliche, yet it still took itself so seriously when all they had to do was crack like 3 jokes and carry that through and make fun of itself a little bit, and it would have been okay.
That makes so much sense, because like those villains were the comedy relief. They were pretty much the only comedy relief in the entire movie, and if they're your primary villains, you just sucked away any chance that I had of being frightened by them, because I'm laughing so much because they're really funny.
Yeah,
like,
I was kind of there. I was kind of rooting for them a couple times. It was I'm not proud of that. I'm not proud of
that.
Kids up, dude.
Yeah, like I love that they have nostrils and gills. It's like, okay, whatever, Star Trek.
Well, hey, if for those of you who haven't seen the outtakes, deleted scenes, blooper reels, that kind of thing on the Blu-ray that I watched this on. They do have those and some great deleted scenes. There's some extended scenes with the kind of where you had the phantasm, the little like phantasm ball that he used to attack the guy.
I think it was awesome.
That was the scariest thing they ever did. Yeah, dude.
There was more to that scene that was really pretty good, and more of his kind of jokes and stuff. The lead bad guy, but then also, sad to say, we didn't get to see. I think his buddy Sam was his name. His mom. You know, we saw the whole drama with the stepdad that he hated. It was always rushing around. Karen Allen from Indiana Jones. Marion, right? And then also Starman, a little bit of a tie to a sci-fi movie about aliens, that kind of thing. She did a scene, they recorded it, and she was, they filmed it. She was his mom. And so Timothy Oliphant's character got to go and have a scene with her. And unfortunately, it got cut from the movie, but.
Yep. And we've only got a couple of minutes left here, guys, but I just want to really quickly yell out Judith Hoag from April O'Neil from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movie from 30 years ago. Anytime I get to see Judith Hoag on stage or screen, I'm thrilled. She was great as the annoying, here's my daughter's boyfriend mom. It was great watching her work. What I want to do is one last thing, parkour. There was a lot of parkour in this movie, wasn't there? I don't know why. It was just random parkour, but there it was. So, okay. So before we pay the bills, any quick last bits about this movie or any of our other, we got to 7, right? Any of our other movies before we wrap it up, guys?
I feel like on this one, they missed a huge marketing opportunity with the dog. I didn't even know the dog had a name. Like they should have given him a cutesy little name, and because he was the best boy. And that would have really helped with the marketing. And the last thing I think I've got is, if a naked Arnold Schwarzenegger ever asks me for my clothes, best believe I'm going to give him right up.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Okay, guys. Well, thank you very much. Somehow we found some magical ways to connect all of these movies together, despite my best attempts to prevent that. So thank you very much for participating. What I want to do before we get out of here is I want to give all of you a chance to let people know where they can track you down on the interwebs if they want to disagree or agree or be offended in some way. So I'm going to start with Sarah. Sarah, where can our fans track you down?
SarahJSover.com. My book is Double Crossing the Bridge is on Amazon, Audible, anywhere else you want to try to find it.
Excellent. Kyle, what about you? Where can we find you?
On social media, you can find me at Poet Kyle. And if you're interested in my books of poetry, you can just Google my name, Kyle Mitchell, and poetry. I have a book called Slang and another book called A Dream of Christmas.
Excellent. Ellie?
You can find me in my books at necroscene.com. That's necrosean.com.
Excellent. And as I said before, I'm Darin M. Bush on my Amazon authors page. Please take a look at my short stories there. Many of my short stories are inspired by bad science fiction and fantasy that I love to watch. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to say thank you for joining us for these 2 panels. If you played along and watched these movies with us, I hope that you got something out of it, even though some of them were kind of challenging. And at this point, I think what we're going to do is we're going to wave goodbye and see you next time. Thanks for joining us here. Bye-bye.
This has been a presentation of Tables of Content. What kind of stupid name is that?